אלוהים מכל אשר עשה, והנה טוב מאוד. וירא אלוהים מכל אשר עשה, והנה טוב מאוד. There was evening, there was morning, there was evening, there was morning, va'erev, va'boker, tov me'od. Va'erev, va'boker, tov me'od. And it was the seventh day, and there was morning. And in the morning, the rabbi was joined by two esteemed congregants to join in our service this morning and help to lead as Rabbi Leah and Ruth and Richard all have a very well-earned break. We're delighted to be joined by Erin Lyons, who you can't see this morning, but is keeping us technically savvy. But as well as being technically savvy, we like to be spiritually savvy as well. So please do join us as we don our talitot and together wrap ourselves in community by saying, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lahitatev b'tzitzit. And this morning we hope that no matter how you have entered the sanctuary and entered our prayer service, that your hearts will be filled with joy. And also a few laughs as well, just as I'm watching Judi and Steve shuffle around to try to get in camera. We love the seriousness, and we try to be as professional as possible, and at the same time, we enjoy ourselves. And don't worry if things go a little bit awry. Ma tovu, ma tovu, ma tovu alecha Yaakov. Mishnotecha Yisrael, Mishnotecha Yisrael, V'ani barov chastecha, avo veitecha, eshtachlave, el heichal kodshecha, b'yiratecha, el heichal kodshecha, Be'irotecha, Adonai ahavti me'od beitecha, u'mekom mishkan kavodecha, v'ani eshtachave ve'echra'a evrecha lifnei Adonai osi. V'ani tefilati lecha Adonai, et ratzon, Elohim, berov chastecha, aneni behemet yishecha. Please be seated. When we read together, as we say the prayers of our ancestors, help us, O God, to remember their faith and devotion, their joy and suffering, and make us worthy of our heritage. May the tradition we have received live in us, and pass from us to generations we shall never know, enriched by the truth we have found and the good we have done. So may we fulfill our task on earth and receive our blessing. Yehi ratzon milfanecha Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu, shetagilenu b'toratecha, v'tadkenu b'mitzvotecha, v'al tavi'enu lo lidei chet, v'lo lidei aveira, v'avon, v'lo lidei nisayon, v'lo lidei vizayon, v'al tashlet banu yetzer hara, v'chachikenu me'adam ra, me'chaver ra. V'tabkenu b'yetzer hatov, uv'ma'asim tovim, v'chof et yitzreinu lehishtabed lach. Utnenu hayom uv'chol yom, לתן ולחסד ולרחמים בעיניך ובעיני כל רואינו, ותגמלנו חסדים טובים. ברוך אתה אדוני, גומל חסדים טובים.
There we go. We were in the right place. I just got it wrong. There we go. So we say together, Baruch she'amar v'haya olam, Baruch hu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, melech ha'olam, hamehulal b'fi amo, mushubach umfo'ar b'lshon chasidav va'avadav, b'shvachot u'vizmirot, לגדל לך ונמליכך, מלכנו יחיד חי העולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, מלך מהולל בתשבחות. אשרי יושבי ביתך, עוד יהללוך. עוד יהללוך, אשרי העם שככה לו, אשרי העם שאדוני אלוהיו.
Always I will exalt you, my sovereign Lord,
and praise your name forever.
beginning each day with praise.
I will extol your name forever.
Cause us to see your greatness is beyond us,
Eternal One, forever to be praised.
declaring your works to each generation,
We bear witness to your mighty acts.
even as they speak of your splendor.
So I will meditate on your wonderful deeds.
For as they tell of your awesome might,
So I will recount your greatness.
great is your goodness which they celebrate,
As they sing of your righteousness.
holding us in your grace and compassion.
You are patient and abounding in love.
In your goodness, eternal God,
You have mercy on all your creatures,
joyfully your works shall thank you,
and your faithful ones shall praise you.
knowing how great is your majesty.
They proclaim your might
Let all humanity perceive your power.
and the glorious splendor of your redemption.
Mighty is your rule and everlasting.
Your reign endures in all generations,
O God, you support the falling,
and raise up all who are bowed down,
pleading all look in hope to you.
and you give them their food in due season,
Quietly you open your hand.
and satisfy the needs of every living creature,
Righteous are you in all your ways.
and loving in all your deeds.
So near are you to all who call upon you.
To all who call upon you in truth,
The desire of those who revere you, you fulfill.
you hear their cry and help them.
Unceasingly our lips shall sing God's praise.
So may all creatures land God's holy name forever. Lord, God's holy name forever.
אנחנו נברך יה ועד עולם, הללויה. Please rise. We read together. ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו, האל המלך הגדול והקדוש בשמיים ובארץ. כי לך נאה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, שיר ושבחה, הלל וזמרה, ברכות והודאות מעתה ועד עולם. ברוך אתה אדוני, הבוחר בשירי זמרה. ברכו את אדוני המבורך. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vaed. Praise be the one to whom our praise is due.
We praise the Eternal One, to whom our praise is due forever.
Please be seated. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam יוצר אור ובורא חושך, עושה שלום ובורא את הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, יוצר אור ובורא חושך, עושה שלום ובורא את הכל.
How manifold are your works, O God! With wisdom have you made them all. The world is full of your creations. Your handiwork proclaims your praise. The radiant stars bear witness to your glory.
Baruch atah Adonai Yotzei Hamorot. And we continue together. Great is your love for us, eternal God, and abundant your compassion. Our ancestors trusted in you, and you taught them the laws of life. So be gracious to us and teach us. Incline our hearts to hear your words, to know and understand, to learn and teach, and with love to uphold the truths of your Torah. Enlighten us with your teaching, make us faithful to your commandments, and wholehearted in the love and awe of your name. For in love you summon us to serve you, and proclaim your unity. We praise you, O God. In love you have called your people Israel to serve you. Please rise. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Va'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha. V'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha. V'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha u'v'lechtecha v'derech u'v'shochbecha u'v'kumecha u'shautam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'v'sharecha. Please be seated. Leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'hitem kadoshim le'Elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem.
Good and beautiful and true, sound, established and enduring are these words, now and forever. True it is, Eternal One, that you are our sovereign God and Redeemer, as you were the God and Redeemer of our ancestors. You are our Maker, the rock of our salvation. We have known you always as our helper and our liberator. There is no God but you. Truly, you are first and you are last. We have no Redeemer but you. You redeemed us from Egypt and freed us from the house of bondage. Then, with great joy, Moses, Miriam, and all Israel together sang to you this song.
Mi chamocha barim Adonai, mi chamocha neda b'kodesh nora tehilot osefele.
A new song the redeemed sang to your name at the shore of the sea. With one accord, they gave thanks and proclaimed your sovereignty.
Adonai imloch leolam va'ed. Zu Yisrael, kuma bezrat Yisrael, go'aleinu Adonai, tzvaot shemo, kadosh Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai, Kal Yisrael, Kal Yisrael, Yisrael. Please rise. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agita gilatecha. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agita gilatecha. Eternal God, open up my lips that my mouth shall declare your praise. Eternal God, open up my lips that my mouth shall declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanura, El Elyon, גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומשיח ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. את גיבורה לעולם שדי, מחיה מתים את רבה להושיע, משיבה הרוח ומורידה הגשם, מזריחה השמש ומורידה אתה. מחלקת חיים בחסד, מחיה מתים ברחמים רבים. סומכת נופלים ורופאת אוהלים, ומתירה אסורים, ומקיימת אמונתה לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעלת גבורות, ומי דומה לך? גבורה במיתה ומחיה ומצמיחה ישוע. ונאמנה את להחיות מתים, רוחה את שדי, מחיה המתים. לקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאיך. קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך כל הארץ, כבודו, כבודו מלא עולם. ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. במקומך מלכנו תופיע, ותמלוך עלינו, כי מחכים אנחנו לך. ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. Please be seated. ישמחו במלכותך, ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי שבת וקוראי עונג. עם קדשי שביעי, עם קדשי שביעי, כולם יספרו ויתענגו מטובך. והשיבי רצית בו וקידשתו, והשיבי רצית בו וקידשתו. חמדת ימים אותו קראת, זכר למעשה, למעשה בראשית. And we continue together. Our God and God of our ancestors, may our rest on this day be pleasing in your sight. Sanctify us by your commandments and make us loyal to your teaching. Satisfy us with your goodness, gladden us with your salvation, and purify our hearts that we may serve you in truth. In your gracious love, Eternal One, let the holiness of your Sabbath enter our hearts, and may all Israel who hallow your name be exalted by its peace. We praise you, O God, for the holiness of the Sabbath. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu ba'amacha Yisrael, u'tefilatam b'ahavat kabel, u'tehil ratzon tamid avodat Yisrael amecha. Baruch ata Adonai, she'otecha levadecha, b'yira na'avod. And together, modim anachnu lach, she'ata hu Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu, le'olam va'ed. Tzur chayenu magen yishenu, ata hu lador vador. Nodeh lecha u'nesapeh tehilatecha. An chayenu hamasurim biyadecha. Va'al nishmotenu habakodot lach. Va'al nisecha shebachol yom imanu. Va'al niflotecha v'tovotecha. שבכל עת, ערב ובוקר וצהריים. ברוך אתה אדוני, הטוב שמך, ולך נאה להודות. שים שלום, שים שלום, שים שלום, טובה וברכה, חן וחסד ורחמים עלינו ועל כל ישראל עמך. שים שלום, sim shalom. And we continue. Grant peace, welfare, and blessing, grace, love, and mercy to us and to all Israel, your people. As a loving parent, bless us with the light of your presence. For by the light of your presence, eternal God, you have revealed to us the law of life, love of kindness and righteousness, blessing and mercy, life and peace. For it is good in your sight that your people Israel and all peoples be blessed at all times with your gift of peace. We praise you, O God, the source of peace. We now pause for a little bit of silent time for our own thoughts. והגיון ליבי לפניך, והגיון ליבי לפניך, אדוני צורי וגואלי, אדוני צורי וגואלי, צורי צורי וגואלי, צורי וגואלי. אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל בני אדם. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. And wherever you are, we hope that this service is helping to bring just a little bit of Shabbat peace into your lives. So now we turn to our Torah service. There is none like you, Eternal One, among the gods people worship, and there are no deeds like yours. Your sovereignty is everlasting. Your reign endures from age to age. Please rise. Ein kamocha Elohim Adonai, ve'ein kamasecha. Malchutcha malchut, kol olamim umefshaltecha bechol tovado. Adonai melech, Adonai ma'alach, Adonai yimloch leolam ba'ed. Adonai oz le'amo yitain, Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Gadol Shemo. Gadlul Adonai ti uneromamo Shemo Yachdav. Lecha Adonai Hagdulah, v'hagvura v'chatiferet, v'hanetzach v'hahod. Ki chol b'shamayim u'va'aretz, lecha Adonai hamamlecha, v'hamitnaseh leho lerosh. Embarrassingly, the last comment I've seen is from Nelly, so I apologise for that really awful key and bum notes. And we're going to close the Ark, I think, before.
You can do it.
Okay. So we've been practicing singing in the key of Chub for our apologies. Today's reading comes from Ekev in Deuteronomy. Ekev comes from, it actually means if you follow, but the root is heel. And so if you submit under my heel, then these things will happen, which sets the tone for the piece in some ways. So Deuteronomy, I'm embarrassed to admit I had to look up the word Deuteronomy because I did not know exactly what the translation was. It's in second law from the Greek deuteros and nomos, second law. That's really what Devarim, words in Hebrew, is all about. The book consists of really 3 sermons or speeches delivered by the Israelites, to the Israelites by Moses on the plains of Moab before they entered the Promised Land. Deuteronomy stresses the uniqueness of God, the need for drastic centralization of worship, and a concern for the position of the poor and the disadvantaged. So in Ekev, we're about a quarter of the way through, at the point at which Moses continues to exhort the people not to forget God's wonders and God's Torah when they enter the Promised Land. Now, Moses' theology is straightforward, but not unproblematic. If you follow the Torah, God will reward you with blessings in the land and drive out your enemies. We'll come back to that later. The portion then reviews some of the earlier incidents when Israel was rebellious, including the golden calf, the making of the second tablets. And the parsha concludes with a passage that constitutes the second paragraph of the traditional Shema. And this paragraph reiterates the connection between piety and receiving God's blessing. And we'll talk about why progressive Judaism tends to leave out this second paragraph of the Chumash for daily prayers. I'll be reading from Devarim 11 to 21, and it's on page 1239 in the Plaut Revised Edition. I should know this, but still. Baruch hu et Adonai haMavorach.
Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bacha banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Now, is the Torah cam? I can't.
Yeah, don't you worry about it.
Okay, we'll do our best to get it in place. A bit hard to see. And you'll recognize some of the words. And that's not a bad thing for someone trying to read the scroll. והיה אם שמוע תשמעו אל מצוותי אשר אנוכי מצווה אתכם היום, יהבה את אדוני אלוהיכם ולבדתם בכל לבבכם ובכל נפשכם, ונתתי מטר ארצכם מטות ירא ומלקוש ואספת דגניך ותירושך ויצריך. ונתתי עשב בשדך לבהמתך ויאכלת ושבעת. השומרו לכם פן יפתה לבבכם ואסרתם ועבדתם אלוהים ואחרים והשתחוויתם לכם. והרע אף אדוני בכם ויוצא את השמיים ולא יהיה מטר והאדמה לא תיתן את יבולה. ועבדתם מהרה על הארץ הטובה אשר אדוני נותן לכם. ושמתם את דברי אלה על לבבכם ועל נפשכם וקשרתם אותם להיות על ידכם והיו לטוטפות בין עיניכם ולימדתם אותם את בניכם לדבר בם בשבתך בביתך ולכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען ירבו ימיכם וימי בניכם על האדמה אשר נשבע אדוני לאבותיכם לתת לכם כימי השמיים על הארץ. And that means if you then obey the commandments that I enjoin upon you this day, loving the eternal your God and serving God with all your heart and soul, I will grant you the rain for your land in season, the early rain and the late. You shall gather in your new grain and wine and oil. I will also provide grass in the fields for your cattle, and thus you shall eat your fill. Take care not to be lured away to serve other gods and bow to them, for the Eternal's anger will flare up against you, shutting up the skies so there will be no rain, and the ground will not yield its produce, and you will soon perish from the good land that the Eternal is assigning to you. Therefore, impress these words upon your very heart. Bind them as a sign upon your hand. Let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. And teach them to your children, reciting them when you stay at home, when you are away, when you lie down, and when you get up. And inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. To that end, you and your children may endure in the land that the Eternal swore to your fathers to assign to them as long as there is a heaven over earth. And just the final bit is, if then you faithfully keep all this instruction that I command you, loving the Eternal your God, walking all the ways of God and holding fast to God, the Eternal will dislodge before you all those nations. You will possess nations greater and more numerous than you. Every spot on which your foot treads shall be yours. Your territory shall extend from the wilderness to the Lebanon and from the river the Euphrates to the western sea. No one shall stand up to you. The Eternal your God will put the dread and fear of you over the whole land in which you set foot as promised. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם מותר בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Koyach, and would you please rise? Baruch shenatan Torah le'amo Yisrael b'kedusharto. Please be seated.
And if anyone else is planning to read from the scroll and wants to do, lift it up, do something from the middle of the scroll. It's a lot easier.
I warned you, you should have had a practice, but...
Right, move this to the middle. Is that the middle? Good. Right, so now you've had your Greek lesson. I was going to give it to you, but you'll know, you all know that the unknown author of this Haftorah is often referred to as Deutero-Isaiah. So hands up who wants the prize for guessing that means the second Isaiah. You've just learnt the Greek for two. And he addressed a people, well, I think it's a he, maybe it was a she, addressed a people who had for decades lived as exiles in Babylon, round about the 6th century BCE, rather. The prophet preached unwavering trust in a God who would surely restore Israel to its homeland. So it does rather pick up on the themes in the Torah reading. And this is the second of 7 Haftarot of consolation, read on consecutive Sabbaths between Tisha B'Av and Rosh Hashanah. And I think I would agree with this writer who says this special liturgical season featured stirring lyrical poetry and words of hope. So I hope that you'll find them that. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher baha b'nbi'im tovim v'ratza v'dreihem henemarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai haboher b'torah u'v'Moshe avdo u'v'Yisrael amo Uvin bi'e ha'emet v'tzedek. Zion says, the Eternal has forsaken me, my Sovereign has forgotten me. Can a mother forget her babe or stop loving the child of her womb? Even these could forget, but I could not forget you. Indeed, I have inscribed you on the palms of my hands. Your safety is continually in my thoughts. Your builders drive out your destroyers, and those who wrought havoc with you depart from you. Look up and see. They are gathering and coming to you, all of them. As I live, says the Eternal One, you shall put all of them on like ornaments. You shall bind them on yourself like a bride. Your ruins, your abandoned places, your desolated land shall soon be crowded with people, while those who sought to devour you shall be far off. Then children you have mourned shall yet say in your hearing, this place is too crowded for mourned, shall yet say in you, and you shall think, who bore all these children for me? Where was I in mourning and childless, exiled and left by the road? And who brought these up? I was all alone. Where did they come from? Thus says the Eternal God, I lift my hands to the nations. I raise my ensign to the peoples. They shall cradle your sons in their arms and carry your daughters on their shoulders. Kings shall serve them for you, and their queens shall nurse them for you. They shall bow down to you, faces to the ground, and lick the dust off your feet. Then shall you know that I am the Eternal, that none who trust in me are put to shame. Can spoil be taken away from a warrior? Can a victim's captives escape? And yet, says the Eternal One, the warrior's captives shall be taken away, the tyrant's spoil shall be retrieved. For I will contend with those who contend with you, and I will save your children. I will make your oppressors eat their own flesh. They shall be drunk on their own blood as though it were wine. And all flesh shall know that I, the Eternal, am your Saviour, your Redeemer, the Mighty One of Jacob. Listen to me, all who pursue justice, all who seek the Eternal. Look to the rock from which you were hewn, the quarry from which you were cut. Look back to Abraham, your father, and to Sarah, who bore you. When I called him, he was alone, but I blessed him and made him many. Just so the Eternal will comfort Zion, comforting all her ruins, making her wilderness like Eden, her desert like the Eternal's garden, where joy and gladness are found, thanksgiving and the strains of song. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam sur kol ha'olamim tzaddik b'kol hadorot ha'el ha'ne'eman ha'omer v'oseh hamdaber umkayim shekol devarav emet v'tzedek al haTorah ve'al havodah ve'al hanbi'im ve'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh Shenata lanu Adonai Eloheinu likdusha v'limnu ha'ah lechavod ultifaret Al hakol Adonai Eloheinu Anachnu modim la Umevarahim ota Yitbarach Shemha befi kol hai Tamid leolam va'ed Baruch atah Adonai Nekadesh HaShabbat
Amen. Shekoyach, would you please rise? Eternal God, whose dominion embraces the universe, we ask your blessing for our sovereign lady, Queen Elizabeth, and all the royal family, for those who govern our country and all who influence the quality of its national life. Make them conscious of their responsibility and teach them to exercise it in accordance with your will. May we all help to fashion in this country a society that excels in freedom and justice, tolerance and compassion, so that it may be a force for righteousness and peace in the life of humanity.
Eternal God, as you blessed our ancestors in generations past, bless now this congregation, its leaders and its members, and all who enter this synagogue to meet, to study, and to pray. Comfort the sorrowing hearts among us and heal those in anxiety or pain. May we all find here community and friendship, renewal of purpose and hope, a deeper understanding of our heritage, and a sense of your abiding presence. Bless all congregations of the House of Israel throughout the world. Let those who live under oppressive rule soon be freed. And may we all unite to witness to your truth and do your will.
Eternal God, our rock and redeemer, grant blessing to the state of Israel, created to fulfill an age-old dream and to be a haven for the oppressed. Inspire its leaders and citizens with faithfulness to the aims of its founders, to develop the land for the benefit of all its inhabitants, and to implement the prophetic ideals of liberty and justice. May they live in harmony with one another and in peace with their neighbours, and cause to come true once more the ancient vision that out of Zion shall go forth Torah and the word of God from Jerusalem. Yahalalu et Shem Adonai, ki niskav shemo levado. Odo aleret b'shamayim, v'yarem keren le'amo, tehillah lechol chasidav, livnei Yisrael, am karovo. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Behold, a good doctrine has been given you. Do not forsake it. It is a tree of life to those who hold it fast, and all who cling to it find happiness. Its ways are ways of pleasantness, and all its paths are peace. Hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva Chadesh yameinu kakedem Chadesh yameinu kakedem. Perfect choreography, and it really is with great gratitude that Steve and Judi have come in this Shabbat to read and to lead the Torah service, and also for Steve now to deliver a Devar Torah for us, which allows me just a few more moments of sleep on a Saturday morning.
So, I recall a conversation with Rabbi Jeffrey Newman, an advisor to Earth Charter and staunch supporter of Extinction Rebellion. It's a while back. And I remember saying to him that Londoners, at least, won't really understand climate change until the tube floods and they can't get to work. Prophetic words there. Never mind distant wildfires in California or Australia or the south of France, unprecedented heat in the Arctic or North Canada, or floods in Germany or India. The reality is that climate change is largely invisible until it actually affects us personally. Judy's cousins live in a very smart block of flats in St John's Wood, overlooking Regent's Park. Their basement was flooded. All the cars were lost, all expensive cars, I should say. They have no electricity, and the upswell of water flooded their flat, and they live on the 8th floor. As we read in Ekev, if you faithfully obey the commandments I give you today, that I will send rain on your land in its season, and if you don't, the Eternal One will rearrange the natural order so that you will all soon perish. Well, that's really very clear, isn't it? Obey God's commands and worship only God, we'll all be fine. And all through Devarim is this threat of reward for good behavior and punishment for disobedience. Now, the passage we read, the second paragraph of the Shema, is recited by the Orthodox twice a day, morning and evening. And their understanding is, at least I hope it is, that it's not just a matter of individual reward and punishment, but it's also a collective matter that pertains to all society. If there's a national following of God's laws and rules, then we'll all have security and be favoured, and presumably the threat and the impact of climate change will go away. Now, most people in our progressive world really can't accept that adherence to such rules has any impact on the weather. Surely, natural phenomena are not controlled by God in response to how much we sin or break the rules. So you can see why all flavours of progressive Judaism leave out this whole paragraph, and indeed bits of the third, jumping, and you heard in the piece there, to the familiar Leman tiskaru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai. Be mindful of my commandments and do them, so you should be consecrated to your God. The concept of leaving out that paragraph goes all the way back to the first radical reform prayer book in Berlin in 1848. And subsequent progressive Siddurim justify in both terms of length and theology leaving it out. Standard progressive thinking continues to challenge Deuteronomic theology, that bad events which occur are a result of communal sinful behaviour. And so the paragraph remains deleted from the service in most prayer books. You can find the Shema in full at the back of Siddur Lev Chadash. So for us liberal Jews, even reading this part of our parasha this week has two problems, according to many thinkers. We don't want to say that those who suffer are necessarily sinners, and we don't like the idea of God controlling the weather according to our behaviour. Yet there have been attempts to reread the passage in a more open and metaphorical way, arguing it can be interpreted along ecological lines, I beg your pardon. Rabbi Kaplan, a Reconstructionist rabbi, suggested the reading, if we continue to pollute the environment and thus display contempt for the integrity of God's creation, pure rain will cease to fall and the ground will cease to give forth its produce. Judi Steve, an American theologian, sees in the second paragraph of the Shema a reminder that all life is interconnected. This is a bit long, but I would like to read it. It is not necessary to read this paragraph of the Shema as a literal statement about divine reward and punishment. In a world whose survival depends partly on the human capacity to value creation and care for it wisely, it is possible to interpret the passage more naturalistically. If we are able to develop an ecological consciousness, if we treat the earth with respect, if we are aware that we are embedded in a great web of life, then the earth will bear fruit for us and the rain will come in its season. But if we believe that we can trample on or transcend the constraints of nature, if we forget the sacredness of all things and make idols of our own wealth and power, then the earth will not grant its produce, and we and the world may perish. As Rabbi Sandra Kviat points out, prayers and our understanding of them do change over time as our relationship and perception of the world changes. One needs a willingness to see beyond the literal and perhaps unacceptable meaning of the text to the spiritual challenge beyond it. Today, I mean literally today, looking at that second paragraph of the Shema in this way is a warning about ecological disaster and what happens, as Sandra says, when we treat nature as a giant waste bin. It also encourages an aspirational view that we should strive to create a world where doing what is good and right is rewarded. Our individual duties are an inextricable part of the responsibilities of the community as a whole. So what can we do? Climate change is an enormous global problem, and there are fewer than 100 days to the UN Climate Change Conference in Glasgow, where world leaders discuss if and how we can make the Earth more habitable for all. And thinking about how you alone can help tackle climate change can feel overwhelming, to say the least. It's really hard to know what to do, whether our individual actions matter. David Halpern, who is chief of the Behavioral Insights team, says the challenge is to prioritize longer-term gains over short-term pains and the collective good over personal gain. And the UK's Climate Change Committee estimates that fully 62% of what we need to do requires our individual behavioural change. Now, I'm still not so much a friend of the Earth as more of an acquaintance of the Earth, so I wouldn't dream of preaching about what you should actually do. But ECEV suggests that we might want to consider some mix of asking the government or your MP to take proper action on climate change, recognising that the costs in the end will come out of your pocket. Take some community action, perhaps even help the Ark Synagogue join the Synagogue movement. Eat a bit less meat, take the train, save energy at home. This is my personal plea. In the reduce, reuse, recycle trinity, which we hear a lot about, reduce has the greatest immediate impact and gets the least attention. Above all, I think ECEV prompts us that it's time to have the right kind of conversations with friends and family about what you and they are doing. So that's not threatening people with climate apocalypse, you can leave that to Extinction Rebellion, but more gentle nudges that promote social pressure on all of us to do more. You will know that the comedian Jackie Mason died this week. I can just imagine his response to all this. Sorry, I can't be at Aunt Bella's funeral because I'll be at home with the heating down, not driving, not eating meat, calling my senator, not contributing to climate change, and it's all in her honour. I'm sure she'll understand. I hope you do. Shabbat shalom.
והיה אלוהים מכל אשר עשה, והנה טוב מאוד. וירא אלוהים מכל אשר עשה, והנה טוב מאוד. There was evening, there was morning, there was evening, there was morning, בערב, בבוקר, טוב מאוד. בערב, בבוקר, טוב מאוד. Thank you, Steve. And thank you to all our ARC members who do support small actions and making good. I'm delighted that Sarah Paziak Goldstein, after she's got married and had her wedding this summer, is going to take on the mantle of trying to make us an eco-synagogue. And we'll all appreciate that work and see what we can do within our synagogue. A dreadfully old Victorian old building on one side of it and possibly leaking, we don't know, in various different fashions. But what can we do to make just a little bit of change ourselves? Now we move on to prayers which remind us, L'Takein Olam, that there's still work to be done to repair and renew the planet. If you are remembering yahrzeits or someone who's died this week and you don't think their name is on our yahrzeit list, please feel free to name them in the chat as well. As we rise and we chant together. Aleinu l'shabech la'adon ha'kol, la'teknu la'liotze bereshit, asher sam chelkeinu li'ached et shemo, v'gor aleinu la'hamlich malchuto, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים. הוא אלוהינו הינוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים, בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת עינות. ונהמה והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. It is hard to feel serene when our world is not complete, when those who once brought wholeness to our life have gone. Yet in the emptiness their passing leaves behind, we are not alone. For we have the companionship of the living, and even our loved ones who have died live on in our hearts. For what they were is part of what we have become. And on this Shabbat we recall the yahrzeits remembered in our community of Anne Finkel, the mother of Valerie Crash, of Emma Claire Edelman, the daughter of David and Sandy, of Givy Keynes, the mother of Barbara Conn, of Mark Mendoza, the father of Lynn Sharp, and of Sally Fiber, mother of John and Miriam, grandma to Lily, Freddie, Hannah, Jordan, Harry, and Joel, and relative and friend of so many of us in the Ark Synagogue. And we're also saddened to announce the death of Sylvia Wheeler, community member of the Lincolnshire Jewish community, remembered by them this morning, and especially by her friend Elizabeth Walker. We honour our loved ones best when we live, as they would wish, responsibly and happily, even in the shadow of our loss, and so draw closer to the source of life, in whom every life finds meaning, purpose, and hope. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbi, be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agalav v'zman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehei shemei Rabbi mavarach le'olam u'lalmei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'a v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitada v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudisha b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, da'amiran balma v'imru Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru Amen. Osei shalom b'imromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol b'nei Adam, v'imru Amen. Please be seated. In a few moments we have Kiddush, which we will do immediately after we've sung Adon Olam. So please, that's your cue to get your bechers and your chalot all prepared. No, we haven't done a very good job in the sanctuary actually this week, but never mind. We will do it with you. We'll sing the songs and you sing, and you hold your bechers and your chalot. We have not so much going on this week, although if you would like to have some company, then please do join me at 7 o'clock this evening for Havdalah. And also at 6 o'clock tomorrow evening, where I'm going to be leading a shiur, a study session, hopefully more of a natter, with our fellow congregants in our twin community of Brit Olam in Kiryat Ono in Israel. I'm not going to be speaking in Ivrit, some may be, so don't worry, just come along if you want to, hopefully maybe a bit of inspiration, but also just to be with us as well. During the next few weeks, there's not so much going on for people regularly in the week. And if you are feeling that you would like some company, please don't hesitate to be in contact with Rabbi Leah, myself, or Omar Portillo, our care coordinator. We love getting together with congregants and also connecting people together as well. Those of you who are on WhatsApp may be using our postcode project groups and connecting, and it's wonderful to see people going on walks together and connecting with each other through that way. But for now, let us conclude our service with Adon Olam. Adon Olam, Hashem Allah, B'terem kol, Yetzir nivra, Le'et nasa, B'chefzo kol, Azai melech, Shamo nikra, V'acharei kichlon hakol, Levado imloch nora, V'hu haya, V'hu hoveh, V'hu yeh, b'tifara. Adon olam Hashem alach, b'terem kol yetzir nivra, Le'et nasa v'chefzo kol, Azai melech shamo nikra, V'acharei kichlot hakol, Levado yimloch nora, V'hu haya, V'hu hoveh, V'hu yeh b'tifara. Adon olam Hashem alach, b'terem kol yetzir nivra, Le'et nasa v'chefzo kol, Azai melech shamo nikra, V'acharei kichlot hakol, Levado yimloch nora, V'hu haya, V'hu hoveh, B'tifara, V'hu haya, V'hu hoveh, B'tifara, V'hu haya, V'hu hoveh, B'tifara. Bi'ado avkidruchi, Be'etishan va'ayira, Ve'imruchi gviati Adonai li v'lo ira. Into your hands we place our souls. Asleep, awake, for you are near. And with our souls, our bodies too. You are our God. We shall not fear. Shabbat shalom to you all. Shabbat shalom, and thank you so much again to Steve and Judi for leading our service with me. It really is so much appreciated. And also, as ever, to Aaron Lyons, who has done the most incredible job this morning. We're all learning on the job, it seems, and learning where shadows of guitars go. I don't know if you spotted that, Aaron, during Steve's sermon, but I put my guitar on already and the shadow was beginning to fall over. So I'm learning new tricks. I don't normally stand here. Judi and Steve, at least you have a becher underneath. There's nothing in there underneath, but at least you can hold it up for good effect. There we go. Shabbat shalom, everybody. And let us join in together as we sing.
Forgot.
And of course, afterwards, if you want to come and join us in our Zoom room for after Kiddush, I was going to say Kiddush, but we're going to make Kiddush now. So after Kiddush in our Zoom room, just to come and have a natter. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam, b'harit olam, beini u'bein b'nei Yisrael, oti Sheshet Ya'amim Asa Adonai Et HaShamayim Ve'et Haaretz Uvayom Hashvi'i Shabbat, Shabbat, Vayinafat, Shabbat, Shabbat, Vayinafash. Shabbat, Shabbat, Vayinafash. Shabbat, Shabbat, Vayinafash. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen, l'chaim to you all. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. B'tavon to you all, enjoy your lunch, Shabbat shalom, and I look forward to seeing you in our Zoom room in a few moments' time. Shabbat shalom.